for the purpose of this segment here, we'll bring in Doug Burns. He's a former federal prosecutor joining us live here, as well as Steve Baric, a former federal prosecutor and a criminal defense lawyer. Also, Jesse Binnall, a Trump attorney, not representing him on this case. Gentlemen, thank you for being on. We appreciate that. So, Steve, if I could start with you. You've been on both sides, defense, prosecution in the past. What can we expect from this arraignment today?
Well, I wouldn't expect a lot of fireworks today. The court will read and advise the former president of the charges against him. I would imagine he will enter in a plea or continue the arraignment. My guess is he would enter a not guilty plea. I heard earlier he mentioned that he has grave concerns about the venue regarding this case, and I would tend to agree with him regarding whether or not he could get a fair trial in the District of Columbia. So that issue may be raised, but I wouldn't expect a lot of fireworks today in court at the arraignment.
Okay. Again, we saw him. He was arraigned in New York and also in Florida. So this is now the third time for the former president here. Steve, you mentioned the venue, as did we. And it's because Trump raised the issue himself on Truth Social. He sent out this post. He said, again, in part here, it'll hopefully be moved to an impartial venue, such as politically unbiased nearby state of West Virginia. Impossible to get a fair trial in Washington, D.C., which is over 95% anti-Trump. Believe that's based on the voting dynamics of the 2020 election. So, Doug Burns, to you, what's the likelihood of this case actually being moved?
Well, unfortunately for them, change of venue motions are hard to prevail upon. But, I think he has a shot. I certainly agree with what my colleague just said. I mean, it's overwhelmingly, anti-Trump venue, and it really isn't fair. So the court hopefully will be open-minded and fair and give him a fair shake on this venue change motion, I hope.
Again, Jesse, I know that you don't represent him in this particular case here, but what would be going through the minds of Trump's defense team at this moment, and really the mind of the former president, and going through this again yet a third time?
Well, he's got an excellent defense team in this case, and the others as well. John Lauro is an absolutely great lawyer for this case, as is Todd Blanche. What they, I think, are going to be looking at is all the different motions right now that you're going to have to bring. So, for instance, there's, as has already been discussed, a venue motion here is very, very important. Donald Trump's biggest draw to the American people is that he stood up to the Washington, D.C. establishment. This is the Washington, D.C. establishment in D.C. That's the judge, that's the jury pool. So it definitely does need to be changed. But there's also going to be very, very strong motions to dismiss on issues such as the First Amendment, not just the free speech clause, but the right to petition the government for redress of grievances that this indictment completely ignores. The rest of the indictment is factually lacking because there is no facts out there that could be used to show that Donald Trump committed any crime. He did things that were only protected by the Constitution that you do in free democracy, such as stand up for transparency in elections and have the right to ask for election contests and recalls.
And I believe today, by the way, I know the banner says federal judge. I believe today it's a magistrate judge that again, they'll appear before for that arraignment. Steve Baric, Jesse Binnall, and Doug Burns, we thank you all three for joining us. Appreciate it,
gentlemen. Thank you.